Alright, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the Destiny board. So inside of here, it's going to allow you to pick what you want to be in Albion Online. And in order to turn into an amazing player in Albion Online and get everything that you want to get, you have to level up in these tiers to, get to the end game of what you want to be. So in order to do that, you need two things. You need these learning points, and you need fame. Now, to get these learning points, they accumulate over time by themselves. They're a hard cap on what you can actually progress in Albion Online. So, you can only get as many of these as you have skill points. Now, up until Tier 3, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be using any of the learning points. But up until then, in order to get the upgrades and be able to continue learning, you need to get the fame. Now, the way you get fame is depending on what you want to go into. You have to kill monsters or craft things in what you want to specialize in. So if you want to specialize as a plate armor crafter, you have to craft plate specifically. If you want to get fame in tools and be able to mine things faster, you need to make sure to mine things with the specific tools it asks you to get the fame in order to upgrade. If you want to level as a warrior, you need to start with a sword. If you want to level as a ranger, you need to start with a bow. If you want to level as a mage, you need to start with a fire staff. And in order to do that, you can build them in the starting towns. So now that you understand a bit about how the fame system works, I want to explain to you what all of the different weapon types do, so that you understand what you want to be inside of Albion. So, swords are your higher damage tanking item. They're really good for keeping aggro. They're really great at making monsters want to hit you instead of your party. It's not a very utility-based weapon. It's mostly meant to just keep things hitting you and deal a good amount of damage. Axes are very, very high damage burst weapons. They're really all about doing a massive amount of damage in a short amount of time, but they have a lot of cast times, so you have to be very careful with how you're using your axes. They take a long time to hit, but they do good damage. Maces are your utility tank item. They're really good at keeping things from getting crowd controlled. They have heals that they can use on their team eventually. The starting level mace is going to feel a little bit underwhelming, but that's okay. If you're going into maces, just know that it does get better. So if you want to be kind of a supporty utility tank, go ahead and use that. Hammers have stuns. They're also a tank weapon. They're good damage. They have a lot of stuns. They're really good at keeping people in combat because they have slows as well. So they're really good at PvP when you're coming into a fight and you want to keep everybody in the fight, right? You're really good at keeping the fight going because people can't run from you when you have a hammer. Crossbows, just your general ranged weapon for warriors. They do really good damage. Shields, as you'd expect, they give taunts, they give resistance bonuses, they give all sorts of cool defensive stuff. Plate helmet gives you a cleanse. It allows you to get out of any sort of crowd control effects. So plate is really good at avoiding CC. Plate armor, as you might expect, is the most resistant to physical damage. This game is not like traditional MMOs in terms where plate is the better tanking armor. It depends on what you're fighting. If you're fighting mages, cloth is going to be better because cloth guards against magical. If you're fighting physical, of course plate's going to be better. If you're trying to get a mixture of both, then leather is good. You can be anything you want to be with the mixture of weapons and armor that you want. If you want to be more of a generalized tank and be able to do everything, then you would wear a shield and a sword while you were using leather, for instance. So don't think that you have to be a specific thing, because you really don't. So let's take a look at the ranger tier. This is the ranger tier right here. We'll take a look and see what kind of weapons they get. They get their bow, which is really good because it has slows. It's really good in PvP because of that reason. Everything you're shooting ends up getting slowed. Spear's really good at sticking on targets because it has a movement speed buff that it gives you every time you hit, so you can haul ass and keep on people. They can't get away from you with a spear. Nature, really slow healing staff. It's got more bursty kind of a auto heal than the holy staff does, but it's also got crowd controls on the side. It's got area of effect healing, and mainly it's your more supporty version of a healer, less of your pure healer. Then you've got your dual daggers, which is your more sustained damage. You've got your knife thrower, which can be a longer ranged weapon. Eventually you can get this ability that makes it so it has 50% more range and more attack speed, but you can't move as fast, so it's really good for prolonged fights that actually, when people come into you, it would be really useful. Torch, let's take a look and see what Torch does real quick. Torch looks like it has a large radius, which deals damage and shows invisibility, so it looks like it's good to take stealthers out of their stealth when they go invisible. Leather helmets have stealth on them. They allow you to go invisible for 7 seconds. Chest pieces can have stealth on them for 30 seconds, but that's later in the tiers. Chest piece can heal you, which I really recommend you get. You need that leather heal if you're going to do a lot of PvE stuff. It's really, really useful. Leather boots. All boots have the same abilities on them, and I'm just going to show that to you right now. So take a look at the spells here. It's got sprint, run, and flee. You always want to get run right now. That seems to be the best one out of all of them. And then it has the passives. Passives are basically abilities that every item can get. Like every boot can get this. Every cloth boot, leather boot, plate boot, whatever. You can get movement speed, resistance to movement, impairing effects, or like maximum carry load. Now, every type of gear can be tailored to what you want to do. For instance, I'm a plate wearer, and I can be a full healer because I have healing bonuses on my plate, and that's what I'm mainly using. So don't put yourself into a specific gear type thinking you have to. You can really wear anything that you want to in this game. Pyromancer Fire Staff, what you'd expect, slow casts, really high damage, massive burst, eventually has skill shots to do a shitload of damage, but they're skill shots, so it's a meteor. Priest, high sustained healing. This is the big healer class. This is the one that heals the most between the two staffs. It's mostly sustained healing, but it's more susceptible to interrupts because that's all it's really got. It's just a bunch of heals. A couple buffs later on too, but they're really not as big as, say, the Nature Staff. Arcanist debuffs, minor debuffs, like armor and magic resist drops, with sustained damage. Frost Mage, as you'd expect, lower damage than some of the other stuff, but it has massive amounts of slows and good area of effect, so that you can keep people in a fight. Curse, what are we looking at? I keep clicking Frost. Warlock, Curse is... Oh, is something... Yeah, okay, so Curse, basically, lifesteal, dots, and a massive amount of crowd control. This thing is really meant to hold people down. Tomes, they're an offhand weapon that allow you to increase your magical attack speed. You can resurrect people, you can silence, you can cleanse, which it actually helps friendly targets instead of just yourself, so you can keep people from getting crowd controlled. Cloth, as you'd expect, resistant to magical damage. Their headpiece gives you a ice block, which makes you invulnerable to everything. Their chest piece allows you to get mana back over a certain amount of time, so you can use that when you're running low on mana. And their cloth shoes are the same as everything else. Now, everything would be the same on the other side of the boards for crafting. If you want to craft, tier 4 plate, you have to first get to tier 3 plate, and then you have to make a certain amount of tier 3 boots, tier 3 chest, and tier 3 helmet to be able to go to tier 4. And then you kind of progress like that. Now, the learning points you only have to use after you hit tier 3. So if you want to get to tier 4 with your weapons and armor, once you get enough fame by wearing that gear and killing things, then you would go in here and you would just click learn. Once you finally gained enough fame, you would click learn. So basically the game is all about picking what you want to be, sticking to that, doing it often, and then learning with your skill points and going the path you want to go. Try not to be jack of all trades. You really do need to focus on a few things to be able to get where you want to go. Other than that, we'll continue something else in the next tutorial. I'll see you then.